We've learned a lot from Staff Sergeant Joe Biggs about the Michael Hastings crash and then the fallout from that event. But we wanted to get him in the studio today to talk about the rising police state in America. Thanks for being here with us. Okay, so Alex brought you in the studio because he wanted to talk with you about the Michael Hastings crash and the cover-up. But we really wanted to get your take as an ex-military. Where do you think America is headed? What do you see with the militarization of our police? And
it's definitely become a more of a brutal force. You know, they're definitely taking on a little bit more of our tactics. I can see that in a lot of the videos I see. They're getting a little bit more high-tech gear. You know, they're able to withhold information like we do, you know, like we're able to do in the military as well, and they're able to keep a lot of this stuff away from the people, and that's a big sign that we're kind of starting to slip away from where America was supposed to head, and it's just going to this whole other direction of control, and just, you know, we're only allowed to hear what they want us to hear at this point.
Yeah, exactly. It's supposed to be separation of powers, but they're getting their intel now from the NSA, and everyone's sharing everything. I guess they just had a report out. There was $200 million worth of ex-military grade equipment being given to local law enforcement. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's a bit uncalled for. I don't think they need that kind of stuff. I mean, if we're, I mean, what do we need that for? I mean,
exactly.
We've never needed it before. I don't think we need it anytime soon right now.
Yeah, I definitely do not want to see our sheriff
in a tank.
Our Acevedo, yeah, riding a tank through town.
Apache helicopters with Hellfire missiles.
Exactly. Yeah. That's really bizarre. So what is your position on the Second Amendment? They're obviously working that angle right now in Obama's administration to get that stripped from us. What do you think?
Everyone has the right to bear arms. I mean, that's what we were founded on. I mean, we have the right. I mean, the right to bear arms isn't just to protect ourselves. It's to protect our way of freedoms in our life against the government if they try to oppress us. That's the point of it. I mean, so for them to try to take that away, that's another way that they're just trying to control us and keep us from being able to rise up and fight for what this country was founded on. And it scares them because they know a lot of people are starting to wake up. They're starting to see what really is going on behind the curtain. It almost reminds me of, you know, the Wizard of Oz. You know, you got the guy back here. You know, it's a scary thing to see happen.
What was your take on that? There was a CNN article that came out that said that should we allow ex-military to be able to bear arms once they get back into the United States, once they're out?
Yeah, I heard about that, and to them, they can go ahead and try and come and take that if they'd like to. I do believe that everyone should have some kind of mental evaluation every so often, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, if someone's a loon, I definitely don't want them in the, you know, to have weapons or anything like that. That's definitely not a good thing. But, you know, like I was saying to Alex yesterday, I went through a lot of the same experiences that some of my buddies went through. Where they're on the same day, the same mission, and they're completely out of their minds now. You know, they're on all kinds of drugs. They're in a psychiatrist's office almost every day, being evaluated, and I saw the exact same things as them, and I'm not affected by it.
Right.
You know, I'm able to go to school, I'm able to do my things, and I don't have nightmares. I don't have, you know, these thoughts of harming people or anything like that. You know, when I see a gun, it's something I'm comfortable with from being in the military, and I enjoy to go out and shoot some rounds. It's a way to relieve stress, and, you know, I don't see there's anything wrong with that.
Well, right, they put you through all sorts of mental evaluations on your way in. So I thought it was kind of curious that CNN also said that post-traumatic stress disorder is actually a mental illness going in. It's not actually what happens in war. What do you think about that?
I mean, there's people out there who can fake their ways through testing. I mean, there's some smart people out there that control their stuff. I mean, because obviously they got in. I mean, I had some soldiers that were loons, and, you know, I wouldn't trust them with a gun out here on the street sometimes, but overseas they were perfect for that job. There's no way to scan, you know, for mental illness from everyone. I mean, you can always look back at people's childhood. That's always a good thing. how did they grow up, what kind of, family were they raised in, the environment they had. I mean, that's definitely a way that they're going to think about stuff when problems arise as an adult. I mean, that's one way you could do it, but at the end of the day, PTSD is kind of an overrated term that gets used. I don't really like to use it that much. Out of all the people I've met in the military, maybe 3 people actually have it that I believe and without a shadow of a doubt know that this guy is messed up from what he's done, from what he's seen, and he just can't come back from it. Other than that, a lot of people use it as a way to get out of things. They try to use it as a way to, well, I got in trouble with the cops. It's because I had PTSD. I was in Afghanistan or I was in Iraq, and that's an excuse. People use it for an excuse all the time.
Well, do you think you have a little bit of an edge because you have a military family background? So you sort of saw how they dealt with the stress?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, my father was a Vietnam vet in the Marine Corps, and I mean, that guy is just a nut job at times. And, I always watched him go through. First time I ever saw my father cry, I remember it was Forrest Gump came out, and I was at the theater, and the Vietnam scene happened, and they were at the memorial and all this. And he broke down and cried, and I didn't understand it. And my dad said, maybe one day I'll tell you. And anytime he saw military things like that, he would just break down. It got to a point where he just couldn't hold it anymore. And I always told myself, if I ever did join the military, I never wanted to be like that. I didn't want to let things that I did eat me away because I made a decision to go do that. Mm-hmm. So I have to be able to justify that and live with it. Mm-hmm. Holding it in and then blowing up, and it's just not an excuse for that. You did it, you need to come to terms with it and just move on. And talking about it's the easiest way.
That's just shocking, though. I know if I was an 18-year-old kid, and maybe I guess a lot of guys play video games, so they're acclimated to violence, but it seems like it would be so difficult to erase certain things. You were talking about a story on Alex Jones' radio show about the guy, the suicide bomber, and I just don't know how I could ever shake that out of my
I mean, I grew up, I went from, an 18-year-old boy to an 18-year-old man my first day in Iraq. I knew at some point in time it would come to where I'd have to pull that trigger, but I never knew that the first time I killed somebody would be the first day in country on a convoy. And the guy that I was with, you do what's called a left seat, right seat ride. These guys are outgoing, they're leaving the country, and they're there to kind of show us the ropes of the mission that we're going to be taking over that they were doing. And this guy looks at me and he's like, hey, I'm like a week away from going home. I've got a wife and 2 kids. He's like, you listen to what I say. If I tell you to speed up, you speed up. If I tell you to slow down, you slow down. If you don't, I will punch you in the face. He's like, we're getting ready to drive through this town called Ashraf, and he's like, it's known that they'll send people in front of you to stop, and then they ambush you with RPGs from the top and try to, kill you. So I'm sitting there thinking, oh, that's easy, whatever. I just won't stop. I drive through. And lo and behold, we finally get there, and the guy calls up to the rest of the people in the convoy and saying, hey, we're, approaching Ashraf. And I'm like, my heart starts pounding. I'm like, man, I hope I don't have to do anything. I don't know if I'm ready for this yet. And we start going through the downtown area, and this guy, walks out in front of me and just stops. And I go to hit the brakes, and next thing you know, I just get a hook from the side. He punches me, and I push down on the gas, and I just remember and hitting this guy, and I'm just like, oh my God, I mean, I've only been here a day, and I just had to do this, it just ate me up. And for 3 or 4 days, I didn't talk to anybody. I was just kind of I was pissed off at that guy. I was like, you made me do that. And after just sitting around and thinking about it, I had to, be like, if I didn't, if I did stop, then, we'd be writing all these letters to these people's families saying that, they're all dead because I didn't do what I was supposed to do. So I learned to just kind of deal with it, and that's what you have to do in the military, is learn to deal with it and rationalize it any way you can. As sick and messed up as some of the things you have to do are, you just got to learn to bite the bullet, suck it up, and move on. I would look at my soldiers and I would be like, you got to understand there's a reason they're pissed off at us. Who wouldn't be? We're here. We're doing God knows what reasons we are here, but we are here. And I was like, I don't blame anyone for wanting to be mad and, hate me for that reason. I mean, but I would tell them, just focus on what you got to do. The more you think about all this stuff, the more it's going to make you not be able to think clearly. If you do need to react to save yourself, the best thing to do is just kind of push it aside and then think about it later, and another time write it down and make notes. And, you know, you can bring up topics at certain times, but, you know, I would be mad too if, you know, people were rolling through in Humvees and telling me I couldn't, or I had to go to bed at a certain time, or I couldn't do that. Who wouldn't be? I mean, if people were to come here and do that, I'm going to be pissed off. I'm going to go down to my basement. I'm going to grab my guns, and, you know, it's on.
Well, that's what I'm curious what you think about the Russian troops that have been rolling in to America. Do you think that they're going to possibly enforce those same type of things on Americans that we were doing to Iraqi and Afghanistan?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, anything's possible. I mean,
would they have you all do it?
They could try. I've even brought this up to command. I mean, just because when you're overseas, you talk about some of the most random conversations, anything to pass the time, anything to break up just the boringness when you're not on a mission, you know. And I was like, you know, if we ever go to a, you know, martial law and a police, you know, the government takes over and the military is running the streets, I'm not going to be picking up a gun, and I'm not going to be threatening my family because, you know, you guys told me to do this. It's not going to happen. And I had a lot of my guys that said the same thing. I mean, there's no way you're going to bring me back to my home and then tell me I need to fight my people. I don't think so. All the guys that I knew that I was with, there's no way in hell that they're going to do that. But you're always going to get that one guy who's just, he just wants to keep that role of that power to be able to, and you'll get a lot of those guys that would love to have that power over some people back here in the, you know, in the States. You know, it's power's a driving power, you know.
Hell of a drug.
It's a hard thing to give up, and that's one of the things I miss about the military was just leading my men and having that, you know, that almost fathership role, that leadership role. And it's a hard thing to give up. And I mean, it's understandable, but it's not going to happen here. Not by me, not by any of my guys.
What did you think about Eric Holder's response to Rand Paul's filibuster regarding the drone use in America?
You know, that's not something you want to be on the receiving end of, because I've seen them in action, and they are a deadly instrument, and they're very precise.
Well, precise, but they kill innocent people within the...
Well, you're always going to have, you know,
casualties.
The day that suicide bomber went off, the Taliban released saying that they killed everyone in the base and that we were all dead. You know, and my mom thinks I'm dead because of that, you know, at that time, because that's what they came out and said. So I'm sure Pakistan, of course, they're going to say it's all innocent people. That's just how it goes. You know, when they don't want to take responsibility for harboring people or Taliban, then the easiest, you know, way for them to get out of that is to say it's innocent people every time. And apparently everybody we kill, you know, is innocent all the time. I mean, there are bad guys. I've seen them. I've been on the missions. I've seen the things that they were planning to do. So it's not some, you know, puppet show where, you know, these are the bad guys and, you know, they're fake and they're not really there. And we're just saying that it's, you know, it's there. I mean, these guys are there and they're doing stuff. So the drones need to be on them, not on us.
Exactly, not on Americans.
Yeah.
Well, Staff Sergeant, thank you so much for being in the studio here in Texas with us today. We're going to have you back real soon.
Right on, thank you.
All right, well, if you want to learn more about this covert operation against the American people, visit the Infowars store and pick up a copy of American Drug War 2. The Infowars store is the exclusive dealer for the next few months. Get your hookup today. That's it for the news tonight. Join us here weekdays at 7 p.m. Central.
Definitely taken on a little bit more of our tactics. I can see that in a lot of the videos I see. They're getting a little bit more high-tech gear. You know, they're able to withhold information like we do, you know, like we're able to do in the military as well, and they're able to keep a lot of this stuff away from the people, and that's a big sign that we're kind of starting to slip away from where America was supposed to head, and it's just going to this whole other direction of control, 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 and just, you know, we're only allowed to hear what they want us to hear at this point.
Yeah, exactly. It's supposed to be separation of powers, but they're getting their intel now from the NSA, and everyone's sharing everything. I guess they just had a report out. There was learned a lot from Staff Sergeant Joe Biggs about the Michael Hastings crash and then the fallout from that event. But we wanted to get him in the studio today to talk about the rising police state in America. Thanks for being here with us. Okay, so Alex brought you in the studio because he wanted to talk with you about the Michael Hastings crash and the cover-up. But we really wanted to get your take as an ex-military. Where do you think America is headed? What do you see with the militarization of our police? And
it's definitely become a more of a brutal force. You know, they're